Do you want me to just? I mean, do you want me to just put it up?
Yeah.
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 Why not? Just, I mean, this obviously is going to be Sarah's least favorite thing of the week. So the floor is yours, girl. I'll just
It's
spin my title.
it's just it's been an absolute clown show, honestly. Um so obviously we haven't seen the documentary talking about how WrestleMania 40 came about, because we know that there was a plan at some point for it to be Roman versus Rock. They had to pivot back to what the plan originally was, or should have originally been, or whatever, because Mr. Gewirtz, or however he
Words.
pronounces his name,
There we go.
has he's trying to rewrite history. He's trying to rewrite how all of this came
His
about. And for the
story.
most part, it's in The Rock's favor, which is why I take issue, because we're not going to do that. We're not going to be trying to paint Rock to be some sort of savior, wrestling god, genius, whatever. And Cody is some like selfish kid who wouldn't get on board with what the WWE story was supposed to be. And he's the reason why we had to pivot. We're not doing that. Sorry. But yeah, he was on a Busted Open Radio, and they interviewed him, and of course they were just asking him about this whole thing, and he had a lot to say because he was the longest tenured writer under Vince McMahon for WWE, and he also is an SVP for $7 Productions, which, mind you, is The Rock's production company. So also got to take that into consideration when you're listening to what this guy is saying about WrestleMania and The Rock and Cody and Roman, because gonna believe that his viewpoint is a little slanted, because who's paying him?
Just
The
a little
Rock.
bit.
So he just says a lot of things, and a lot of it just contradicts each other. At one point, he says that the original plan for WrestleMania 40 was Cody versus Roman 2, which was apparently planned after WrestleMania 39. But then he goes on to say that the original plan was actually Rock Roman for WrestleMania 40. And then he felt like it was problematic for Cody to win the Royal Rumble, which, again, if they had already decided that it was going to be Rock Roman, then why would you have Cody win? He was then saying, like, well, that's why I said I thought it made more sense for CM Punk to win the Royal Rumble, because then he could have just faced off with Seth Rollins. I'm like, you sound like an internet fan. That's what you sound like. That's why I can't take him seriously, because it's so hard for me to imagine that everything that people have been saying online since the Royal Rumble is actually like what happened or what these people believe. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we can sit here and talk. We have a wrestling show. We talk about our opinions. We talk about our viewpoints. We talk about what we think is happening behind the scenes, but we don't know. And probably 9 times out of 10, we're way off, because we're not writers. We're not, we have no experience in being a part of a wrestling company and what it takes to write stories and stuff. So it's like, it's very hard to believe that everything that we have said lines up with what actually happened. And I feel like that was basically what he was saying. Everything that he was saying was stuff that we had said. And so it's hard for me to believe that, okay, Roman versus Cody Part 2 was in advance, was planned a year in advance. Okay, cool. That had been locked down for 8-9 months, and then all of a sudden, because it had been talked about before, The Rock is just conveniently available, and then they decide before the Royal Rumble that they're going to do Rock Roman. But not really. It wasn't like really solid. It was like, let's go see how they react, because of course they're going to love it, because I'm The Rock and we want to see The Rock versus Roman. That's why The Rock went out and teased about how he wants to come for the head of the table, or he wants to sit at the head of the table. And everyone loved it. So we didn't really understand why they didn't love it when Cody looked like a sad little puppy dog handing over his match, which they didn't like either. And I'm like, but then he's like, that sucked. But like, it's kind of hard to blame him. And I'm just like, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth, bro. Like, you can't do that. And then trying to claim that The Rock is the one who pushed the pivot. Like, bro, it's just like, no, we can't do this. None of this stuff is on one person. We have to say it had to have been collective. Like, you don't even work for WWE. You are not calling the shots just because you work with The Rock. Like, you are not dictating what is going on in the company that you don't work for, and neither does your boss. Like, you're not coming in there and saying, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. It, like, we're going to forego a 2-year storyline between Cody and Roman
Yeah,
because
exactly.
let's go with Rock and Roman instead, because Black Adam bombs. The Rock wants a payday, wants to take advantage of the fact
Your
that
words.
wants to take advantage of the fact that WWE is the hottest it's ever been. So they're going to love The Rock. Of course they're going to love The Rock. They're going to eat him up against Roman, and everyone's going to forget about Cody, bro. Come on.
It's very old
Come
school
on.
thinking. It's just very old school thinking to me when I read this. And when I read it, it's a contradictory. It just doesn't it makes no sense. It
Yeah.
feels like they just come up with a new story every day because they think our minds are that of a goldfish. It's not. Like, we remember this stuff. Wrestling fans remember everything. And that's what this whole debacle is really about, is they don't want us to remember before The Rock was introduced and the pivot had to happen. When in reality, in hindsight, like, the pivot is the best thing ever. I don't care who did it.
Yes,
And the fact that
1,000%.
the Rock implementing himself, ridiculous and whatnot, doesn't make sense from a wrestling fan's perspective. But it led to, I would say, without a doubt, the greatest WrestleMania, and especially, it's not even close, greatest ending to WrestleMania of all time. So to me, I just want the truth. Like, I don't care. I don't care about who said this, oh, this was the plan, but you're just saying it because you don't want to throw this guy under the bus, or you don't want to make this guy upset. And, oh, Cody wasn't too happy about giving up his title shot. Well, here's the thing. If Cody did act all chipper and whatnot, that's even weirder.
Well,
Okay, that's weirder.
Because then people are reflecting on it, right? Now that we're hearing more of this, there's going to be bits and pieces of the truth in what he's saying, but you just don't exactly know what the truth is. But then when people were looking back, so if we're saying, he's claiming that it was decided or almost decided at Royal Rumble, but Cody was still told he was winning the Rumble. He was told before the Rumble match that he was probably not going to be facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, that it was going to be The Rock. Please tell me then, 1, why was Cody still the winner? 2, Roman and Seth are out there watching the Rumble match. And 3, why did Cody point at Roman? If the plan all along was to not have him face Roman, because then you're trying to paint him out to be the bad guy for doing that. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if he knew that he was probably going to be facing Seth, why wouldn't he have pointed to Seth? Or why did he make it a point to anybody? You know what I mean? And then you see him at Raw, and this was something I had totally forgot about until people brought it up. At Raw, he came out, I think probably to start the show or something. I don't remember exactly. But Cody came out and was talking in the ring. And do you remember when he started to get choked up and said how the last 48 hours were some of the hardest times of his life, and that he really needed us this past weekend? And he's like tearing. Now you know why. Because they were taking away his entire opportunity that they had been building up for a year. And it's like, none of this makes any sense. And then some people were even talking about, like, was Triple H being a double agent? Like, was he like saying yes to all this stuff with The Rock, so Rock versus Roman, but then he purposely kept Cody as the winner of the Rumble because that was what he wanted to do, and like that's what he actually wanted to happen? I don't believe that, but I just don't. The stuff that this dude is saying just doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. And that's why I kind of question if the reason why we're hearing these theories now is because we're going to see a bunch of BS in the documentary whenever it's eventually released. Because I think The Rock is the one that's holding it up, because The Rock wants to look like the good guy. I feel like we're going to start seeing more of this kind of BS in there, and they're just like preparing us for it now, because I don't think we're ever going to know the truth beyond what they've already said, which I do believe is they kind of wanted to see if they could do Rock versus Roman, even though none of it made sense. It didn't work, and they were forced to, as you say, go into the skid or drive it. What do you say? Steer into the skid.
Steer into the
They
skid.
had
There
to
you
do
go.
that.
Someone's listening to me.
They
Let's
had
go.
to do that because it was a massive upset globally for the entire WWE universe. Basically, they couldn't ignore that people didn't want to see Rock versus Roman, so they had to do it. But I feel like what we've already heard them say, that like, yeah, we changed it, we listened to the fans, blah blah blah, that's the extent. I don't need to know anything else. I don't need to know if it was The Rock that texted me at 4 a.m, blah, 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 blah. I don't need to know that, because I also don't believe that. We're not going to say that The Rock agreed to take an opportunity away from Cody, fine, gleefully, right? Because he wanted his WrestleMania moment. And then he's the one who said, let's pivot, actually. That's not the same dude. A dude who is willing to come in and put a complete stop to a storyline that was 2 years in the making is not the same dude who a few days later would then be like, LOL, let's just make me heel. That's not the same person. And
someone's lying. Someone is lying here.
That's what I mean. Like, this is why I feel like he's trying to make The Rock look good. And it's like, it's fine if he is just the dude that wanted to take the match for himself. If that's who he is, by all means, bro, do that. That's what you wanted. You probably have the pull. Clearly you did, because it was the plan. But let's not try and then paint you out to be this awesome, like, team player, like always on Cody's side and just a big supporter. You weren't. For months, you weren't. Let's not try and act like, it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde here. You're both guys. Really, like, it's not a thing. So I don't know. I could literally talk about this for so long. But plus, oh yeah, we mentioned this too. Sorry, and then I'll wrap it up. The other thing that doesn't make sense about him saying that, oh yeah, he says the original plan of what WrestleMania was going to be would really like burn the earth or whatever.
I didn't agree with that at all. I don't think it was the worst thing ever. I think he's trying to he's trying to stir the pot and get
because your mind immediately jumps to, which people had talked about. People had said, there were reports that claimed The Rock was pushing to take the title off Roman.
Yeah.
And at WrestleMania. And if that's the case, it makes no sense. The Rock is booked for the entire year on movies and TV shows, whatever else he's doing. He has no time to be a champion. Roman is also off, taking time off to film movies, TV shows, whatever he's doing. So you're telling me that people who signed on to do these projects months and months in advance were planning on switching titles, taking a title off a guy who was nearly champion for 4 years so he could have the title for 2 weeks and then drop it? Come on.
Makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense, even for the captain of all things.
Yeah, it's just
nonsensical.
It's ridiculous. So, end rant. I'm sorry, y'all, but yeah, it's just been really, really frustrating to me because I don't like the whole idea of trying to make Cody look like the bad guy when he did nothing wrong. He earned his opportunity. He was told a year ago that was what it was going to be. And just a couple months beforehand, a guy used his pull in the back to do what he wanted to do without any sort of comprehension of what that meant for Cody. Like, let's not paint him to be the bad guy. We're not going to do that. So that's why I wanted to make sure I talked about it, because I'm like, no, we're not doing that today.